Hello and welcome back to another Singer Sewing Live. So happy to have you here. My name is Bethany. I'm an education specialist with Singer, and I'm going to give everybody a minute to jump on. We're tuning in live to Facebook and YouTube at the same time. How cool is technology? So we're going to give everybody a minute to jump on, and we'll get started with our live for the month. So welcome to you all. And while you're jumping on, if you could let me know where you're tuning in from, I'd love to see that. I am tuning in today from my studio outside of Nashville, Tennessee. And also, we're going to be talking about our project of the month for September, which is our quilt back here. So if you have ever quilted or you've never quilted, just let me know where you are in your quilting experience. So if you've never done it, you've tried it a few times, or you feel pretty proficient in it, I'd love to kind of have an idea of our audience of where their skill level is at with quilting. And then we'll kind of tackle that together today, and we'll go over some tips and tricks so you guys can have a successful project of the month. So I'm going to come over here real quick and look at our comments. Hi, hey everybody. I see more people jumping on, so be sure to say hello. Cincinnati and beginning quilting. Thank you for letting me know. I'm excited to talk to you guys about quilting because, you know, you see me come on here and do all these fun lives every month, and we talk about our projects of the month, which I create for you all, which are free on singer.com. So if you didn't know that, I create a new project every month for singer.com. Some of my colleagues create projects as well. So there will be more than one project sometimes in a month. Right now we have quite a few because it's like peak project season going into fall, Halloween, Thanksgiving, Christmas. There will be an abundance of projects on there on singer.com, and they are free. Okay, and they come with these beautiful tutorials that we write with lots of photos to walk you through all the steps so you can have a successful project and try new things. That's the ultimate goal, is we want you guys to try new sewing techniques, and these projects should challenge you enough to try new things, okay, and learn some new techniques. So this month is our quilting one. And by the way, if you weren't aware, this month is National Sewing Month, which is really kind of cool. I love that we have a month that we can just celebrate all that we love about sewing. All right, so I have some more people tuning in from Missouri. Confident Advanced Beginner. I like that. I like that confidence you have. Maybe I need to share some of that with me. All right, so we're going to get started. Thank you for tuning in. Again, my name is Bethany. I'm an education specialist with Singer Sewing Company. And as I was just saying, we do have projects every month available for free on our website, so go check those out. Our project of the month for this month is our wall hanging quilt back here. This is a beginner quilt project. I'm really excited about it, not just because it's beautiful fall colors and pumpkins, which I'm obsessed with, but it was actually my first time ever sewing a quilted wall hanging, okay? Now, I know I come on and I do all sorts of crazy projects with you guys and teach you all sorts of techniques, and I've been sewing for a very long time, and I love sewing, but I'm not a master at all of it. I don't think anybody really can be a master at all types of sewing, and there's so many different things you can do with sewing. So just know that sometimes my projects are going to be more on the beginner side, not just to help you all learn a new technique, but because I may be learning it along with you guys. I do have a wonderful support team behind the scenes in our education team that help me learn these new techniques, give me tons of tips and tricks. My mom is also a quilter for many, many, many years. So she's taught me a lot and helped me out with some of her, tips and tricks that she likes to use. So that's why our project of the month, if you print this out, it's a little long, because I wanted to go over all the basics. I wanted to go over all the foundational, important techniques and tips that you guys need if you're a beginner quilter or wanting to get into quilting a little more. So just know that this one is going to go over a lot of the verbiage, lingo of quilting. They have like terminology for things that, are a little different than some of our other sewing terminology. So just know that this is going to be a very good tutorial for someone who's never tried quilting before. Or even if you're a beginner sewist, you can absolutely do this. This was really fun. And I actually was really nervous about trying quilting. I'm going to be very honest with you all. I was a little nervous about it because it just seems like you have to be so precise, and you really do. But I think I built it up to be harder than it really was, truly. I mean, I'm a garment sewist. Like, that's my favorite thing to sew is garments. I made my cardigan. I love to wear things on here that I've made. I love garment sewing. So getting into quilting seemed kind of foreign, but I honestly picked it up much faster than I thought I would. And I enjoyed it a lot more than I thought I would. Like, I really enjoyed it. So I've already bought more stuff to quilt, and I've bought a whole package to make like the whole kit to make a big quilt for my bed. So I'm jumped in head first, and we're all going to do it together. All right, let me check in and see where you guys are tuning in from. We have people from all over. There's some more from Michigan, Canada, all over. I love it. Awesome. All right. So what I want to show you guys is just some of my beginner tips and tricks, and we're going to kind of walk through just piecing some of the pieces together for a quilt. We're not going to go through the whole project. We don't have enough time to do that in one day. But like I said, our tutorial is very thorough, so it will definitely walk you through all of it. So today should just be about learning some new stuff, watching, and then going and trying it for yourself, okay? So I'm going to switch over here to this camera and just show you some of the things we're going to be using today. We're going to be using what is called a 1/4 inch piecing foot. So this is a 1/4 inch foot, and this is a regular one right here, but I also have a clear one, and you can see the little marks for the 1/4 inch here. So you can see them, but I like this metal one with the 1/4 inch marks on the top too. All right, so you have one of these 2 feet that you'll need for, oh, I guess it helps if I'm not the best with these cameras. Sometimes I get turned around. Sorry about that. Let me try that again. This is your 1/4 inch piecing foot right here, okay? And this is the metal one, and that's the one I'm going to use today. But we also have a clear one. I know that may be a little hard to see on camera, but it's basically the same thing. So you have 2 options here. This one I like because it's a little more open toe, wider open toe here than this one. But sometimes this one's really great if you've got a thicker material, or if you're doing like a quilt with like a flannel or fleecy kind of flannel material. It makes it thicker, so sometimes this might be better. So just know that there's 2 different types, but this is the main type of 1/4 inch piecing foot, okay? Now you'll notice on this foot, and we'll put it on the machine in a minute, it has a single hole in the middle, which means you can only use a straight stitch with this foot. You cannot use a zigzag or anything. If you do, that needle's going to hit the metal and break, and you do not want to break your needle. So just be aware when you go to put this foot on that you also make sure that your machine is set to a straight stitch, okay? Another foot that we're going to use today is this walking. A lot of people call it a walking foot. We also call it an even feed foot, and that's because we've got the teeth here that are working with the teeth on the machine to simultaneously feed the material through as you're sewing. And why you want to use this for a lot of like quilting or doing like the binding around the edge is because it's a thicker. You've already made your quilting sandwich, which we're going to talk about in a minute. So you've got multiple layers of fabric, including like a batting, and it will help feed it all in evenly so that your material doesn't shift and it sews really nicely. So I'm going to show you how to use this today. We're going to use it. I'm going to show you how to attach it to the machine. It's actually very easy. Now this foot right here is called a free motion or darning foot. We're not going to use this one today, but I did want to show you all what it looks like because I do mention it in the tutorial as an option. So in our tutorial, we're going to do straight stitch quilting, which is perfect for beginners. So that's why we're going to use this foot. But there is also free motion quilting or and other types of quilting that you can do that isn't straight stitch, and you would want to use a foot like this so you can really move the material around to create some really cool quilting designs. So just know that this foot is also a great one to use, but this is going to be someone for who's not a beginner. I definitely recommend practicing and having fun with it. It can be a lot of fun, but it does take some getting used to. So, all right, so we're going to really just be focusing on these 2 feet today. our 1/4 inch piecing foot and our even feet, walking foot. You're also going to make sure that when you start quilting that you're cutting your material precisely. So that's where something like a straight edge ruler, a cutting mat, and a rotary cutter is absolutely a must-have for quilting. These clean, crisp edges and making sure each square matches up and is the same size is so, so important. So I wanted to make sure you guys are aware that you definitely are going to want the proper way to cut your material. Something else that you might want to use is called quilting pins. Like this, they're a little different than regular safety pins because they've got that bend, so it makes it easier to get them through all the layers and helps hold your, what we call a quilt sandwich together, which we'll talk about later. And you're also going to probably want like an extra ruler to be able to measure as you sew to make sure that you're getting that 1/4 inch seam allowance all the time. You want to be so precise with that. Besides your squares, to make this quilt, you're also going to need fabric for the backing, which this is just a one solid piece. And you're also going to need a batting. I use a cotton batting for this one. So I just made a smaller version of our quilt project just so, because it's too much to put on here full size. So I just made a mini version, but that's what we're going to sew up today. And I'm just going to kind of walk you guys through that. So let's go over to our machine here. Today I am sewing. I know you can't see the whole thing because I wanted to make sure you guys had a good view here, but I am sewing on the Singer Quantum Stylus 9960 today. And the reason I decided to just kind of zoom in for you guys and not show you the whole machine is we're just going to stick to a straight stitch. So there's really nothing exciting going on with the settings. We're just going to keep it at a straight stitch today. And I'm just using some white thread. Now I have my general like all-purpose foot on here right now. So I'm going to take that off. I love how easy it is to put these feet on and off the Singer machines. And I'm going to take my 1/4 inch piecing foot and we're going to put that on my machine. And remember, I have a straight stitch because there's a single hole right here and I want to make sure that it goes through that center hole. You want to make sure your needle is also in a center position for this foot. Okay. Now, when it comes to starting to piece your squares together, you want to make sure the first thing I recommend doing is once you have all of your pieces cut all of your pieces for your whole quilt project. Okay. So cut all of this before you start piecing stuff together. The other thing that's very, very important is before you cut, I want you to iron all the wrinkles out of your material because those wrinkles could cause if you cut first and then iron second, your squares may not be the same size everywhere. And that can cause issues as you start piecing everything together and your seams don't line up. So just do the prep work, iron your material, then cut it. And then once you have all your pieces cut, I like to go back and press them. So the difference between ironing and pressing is ironing is the motion, pressing is you're just pushing it flat. So there's a point when you start quilting that you shift from ironing to pressing, because when you sew these together and you start lining up your seams, if you go to press them out and you, instead of pressing, you move it, it can actually cause some shifting there. So we don't want that. We just want to gently press. Okay. I pre-wash. That's a really good question. I typically pre-wash all of my fabrics because it's just going to help in the long run with shrinkage and all of that fun stuff. However, I did not with this one. And the reason being, I wasn't making something big that people were going to use on a couch or a bed or whatever. This is literally just going to hang on a wall for the fall. And then it's going to get packaged and boxed up with all my fall stuff. And then it'll come out next year. So it's really probably not ever going to get washed a whole lot. Maybe just lint rolled for if it gets a little dusty, but I didn't pre-wash this. My mom has this machine and loves it. Awesome. I do really, really like our Quantum Stylus 9960. I do a lot of projects on this machine, as you all will see as you tune in and follow along. But yes, if you are going to be using your quilt, your finished quilt, like on a bed, and you're going to be washing it, just like with your bedding, I would highly recommend pre-washing your materials always. All right, so today I'm going to show you how I ran ahead and cut my squares and I'm lined them up. But what I was going to mention is once you have all your pieces cut and you've decided which one, you need to lay them all out. Now, my tip here is lay them all out just like you want the front of your quilt to look, in this order or however, whatever order you want, okay? Take a photo with your phone because somehow they'll get mixed up or you'll forget which one was going where and you'll go, oh, I can't remember. And then you have to lay them all back out again, or you may have to take some apart if you've already sewn them together. So take a photo just to make sure that when you sit down at your machine and you start sewing them together, that you're sewing them in the right order like you wanted originally, okay? All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take 2 of my squares and I'm going to place them right sides together. And I'm going to come back to the machine real quick and I'm going to line this up with my foot. Now, it may be a little hard to see. I'm going to kind of zoom you in at a higher angle. I'm going to line the edge of my fabric up with the edge of my 1/4 inch foot. There's the right edge. That is going to give me a 1/4 inch seam allowance because my needle is in the center position for a straight stitch, okay? And you do not need to back stitch for when you're piecing your squares together. So don't even worry about that. I'm going to hold my thread and put my needle down and we're going to start sewing. All right, so I'm towards the end of my piece here, and I have another one that I want to sew up as well. So instead of taking this one off before I put this one on, I am just going to continue sewing. I'm going to lift my foot and slide this one under a little bit. This is called chain piecing or chain stitching. So we're just continuing one after the other. That's why I say go ahead and cut all of your pieces. Get them all lined up, ready to go, and then you just have a stack of them and you just keep going. And when you get done, I'm just sewing up these 2. We can take them right off. But see, there's a little stitch in between here. We're just going to cut that apart. And now we have 2 separate ones. And we'll come back over here and I'll show you what we're going to do next. Let me move my big ruler out of the way. It's a great ruler. All right. So here we are with one of our squares that we did, one of our pieces that we just attached together. And now we've got a nice straight, beautiful seam here. I'm going to flip it over and I'm going to just gently finger press this open. I did not set up the iron today just to press a couple of seams. So normally you would kind of press this open and then go to your iron and press all of these open. We're not going to iron them open. We're going to press them open, okay? But for today's example, we're just going to finger press because with this nice crisp cotton, it does really well. All right, so let's press this one open. By the way, these beautiful fabrics I'm using today are some of our new Singer fabrics. And these are some of the fall ones that are coming out really, really, really soon. So keep an eye out for these. But aren't they pretty? So this is what our block's going to look like. Okay, so I have 2 smaller prints and then I have 2 like the bolder prints. And this is how we're making our block. Okay, so now that I've got these 2 attached and these 2 attached, I want to join them together to make one block. Okay, so I'm going to flip this over. I like to flip from the bottom up, but you can do the top down. It's totally up to you. And I'm going to line up this edge so that they're joined. So when they open up, they're connected here and we have a nice seam. But we want to make sure that these seams are lined up too. So important. So I'm going to show you a little trick for that. I'm going to line these up. And I've got my seams lined up. And I'm going to take a straight pin and I'm going to stick it through my top seam, right through my bottom seam. Now, I don't know if you guys can see that really well. It's through the top and it comes right through the bottom. Okay, and you want to make sure that it's coming through the seam on both sides. And then I'm going to kind of push it back through to the front, and it's coming back through right in that seam. That means that this is going to hold that seam in alignment as it's feeding through the machine. Sometimes it can shift off, so this is a great tip for keeping that seam in alignment. Okay, so let's go back to the machine, and we're going to do the same thing we did before. We're going to do a 1/4 inch seam allowance with a straight stitch. And again, you do not have to back stitch. That's the word I was looking for. Oh, my machine just ate my thread because I didn't hold it. That was my fault. Let me fix that real quick. Sorry about that. There we go. That happens sometimes. I do that more often than I'd probably like to admit that I do. Well, let's try that again. There we go. These things always happen when I'm on a live, you know, it's never fails. If you've ever watched me do a live before, you know, it's something's bound to happen. All right, let's, whoop. And I'm trying to do all this with the camera right here in front of me too. All right, let's try this again. There we go. Did I do? Well, I don't know what I've done, y'all. I think I may have a little thread jam. So bear with me for just a minute as I try to figure out where that jam thread is that I couldn't see earlier that is causing the issue. And I think I found it. And this is just proof that no matter how much sewing experience you have, these things happen and we just have to work through them. I wish sewing went seamlessly, like that, seamlessly every time. And sometimes it does. And then you're like, wow, that was great. But when you're on a live or when you're in a hurry, these things happen and it never fails. All right, let's see if I can get this going again. All right. Let's see here. I'm going to test it on another square that I'm not going to be sewing on. So let's just. Yeah. Well, guys, I think it may be something in here that's catching, and that just happens sometimes. So I am using the 9960, and I've never had an issue with my bobbin, and it could just be my bobbin today that's being finicky, but it's wanting to kind of catch a little bit. So let me see if I can't get this working. If not, I'm going to go grab a different machine and we'll just keep on going. And it may just be something I don't want to spend too much time on this. It's probably nothing, but I don't want to spend too much time on this when we have stuff to learn. So appreciate you all being patient with me as I kind of work through this. Yeah, I think it's something inside here that's catching it. And to be safe, so that we don't continue to have issues, I'm going to swap machines real quick. So if you guys can give me just a minute, I apologize for this inconvenience. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to drop them in the chat. I'll try to answer them as soon as I can. If I remember correctly, I think this one was doing this the other day, and I think there's something down in here that was my fault. So I need to dig into that a little more. So give me just a second. Sorry, guys. We're going to swap her out. It'll just take 1 second. So please chat amongst yourselves. And I will be right back. All right. It could be a new lesson on fixing issues. I hope you guys are learning from me here in this moment. We are going to try this one. Now, this one is the Singer 8860. So, very similar to the 90 or 8060. Did I say 8860? 8060. So, is the heavy duty 6800C not the best machine to quilt with? You can absolutely quilt with that machine. I love the 6800s. You almost grabbed it, but then this machine uses the same outlets and foot control as the previous one we were just using. So I figured I'd just make my life a little easier and just swap the machine and not the power cord and presser foot. So I grabbed this one instead. But the the heavy duty, absolutely. But you can use the walking foot, you can use the free motion foot, the darning foot, you can use the 1/4-inch piecing foot on the heavy duty machine too. So absolutely can do that. I am just threading my machine. Now, I don't know if you all saw behind me on my dress form, the, what's on my dress form? I know you probably can't see it right now. There you go. Can you see it now? That is I moved her out of the way so I could walk by. It's a flamingo. But this is our project of the month for October. We're going to do a really fun, like, upcycle costume. That's quick last minute costume. This is actually done on an apron that I bought. So you don't even have to make the apron. You can store buy like an apron and then put it on there, or you can make your own. Make your own apron. All right, let's go for this again. Woo! I'm going to need some tea or something in a minute. Let's try this. The patchwork is a great machine as well. I agree. Hi from Southwest Florida. Bethany, is that you who has a new sewing podcast? I saw something come up on my feed. Yes. Yes, Bonnie, that's me. Thank you. I do have a new sewing podcast, which is super fun because I can't get enough sewing. I have to talk about it all the time. So Yes, we have a new one. It's called the Social Hour, which is SEW, social. So super fun. All right, let me fix my camera here. Let's try this again. Sorry about that, y'all. I appreciate you being patient with me. All right. There we go. And I am just keeping my finger on this pin that we had put through our front and back seam. And as I get to the pin, I'm going to stop before I get to it. I don't want to sew over the pin. But now that the foot is over the seam, I can remove it because it's holding it down in place. So I can remove my pin. And you still want to make sure that your fabric is in alignment on the other side of your seam as well. Now, you can choose to put clips, like sewing clips or pins along here. A lot of people like to clip their material together with sewing clips. I love sewing clips for garment sewing. But for today's demonstration, I decided to save the time and not bother with the clips. But I did want to show you the trick with the pin through the seam to keep the seams together. All right. So we're going to trim our thread and we'll come back over here to this camera. Sorry, I'm switching between all of them now. And this is our top two squares and our bottom two squares sewn together. Finally. And we're going to, I like to trim all these extra threads. And you know me, I'm just throwing them right in the floor so I can clean them up later. And I'm going to, again, finger press my seams open. I like to kind of finger press them open first, and then I would go to the iron and really press them open. Just like that. Okay. Now, this will press nice and flat. But another option, if you don't want to open your seams like this, some people will press these seams one direction, these seams another direction, and then they'll do that here too, and then they create like a little crisscross. And you'll see a picture of that in the instructions that I typed up for you guys for this project. So there's two. I wanted to show you this way as well. This will still lay really nice and flat. But the whole purpose of kind of doing that is so that there's not so much bulk. Also, if you have a lighter fabric like here, you may not want to see the seam allowance through the fabric here. So you may want to press it, all the seam, to the darkest side. So in this situation, I would actually press this one to this way and this one to this way so that they're going in opposite directions, but then you're not going to see that seam like through the material on the lighter material. So there's options there. But look how perfect our seams lined up right there in the middle. That's what you're looking for, okay? That's when you know you've done it well and you've pinned your seams together well. Okay, so now that we have a block done, you want to repeat this, and then you'll do the same step for attaching your blocks into rows. So you always work kind of left to right like you're reading a book when you're piecing a quilt together, okay? So to be proactive and to save us some time, since I just had to switch out the machine, I went ahead and made one. And so you can see what we're going to do next. So next is where you want to make your quilt sandwich. And what that means is you're going to take your front piece, your back piece, and sandwich, well, not all your scrap pieces, and you're going to sandwich your batting in between, okay? Just like a sandwich. Now your batting and your back piece are going to probably, well, in this tutorial, they're definitely going to be bigger than your the front of your quilt. You are going to cut them a little bigger. But because we're going to use it's just easier to have it a little bit bigger. So now that we have our sandwich, there's two options. There's two options for piecing this sandwich together. Now, there are a lot of people that use the quilting clips. And you can absolutely do that. And you can clip, you kind of want to have one in the center of each square and then one in the center here and all of that fun stuff. Okay, so you definitely want to go through and pin them all before you start quilting. But I actually prefer to not have to do so many pins. I think if I was doing a really big quilt, I would absolutely use pins. But for a smaller wall hanging like we're doing in this project, I chose to use a spray adhesive. A spray adhesive, and I quickly want to mention this, a spray adhesive for fabric. It's a temporary hold, it's a light hold. I went ahead and sprayed these pieces together. So I spray the front piece to the batting, and then I spray the back piece to the batting, so it makes that sandwich, okay? The spray adhesive is something that you want to use in a very well ventilated area, wear your proper PPE so you don't inhale it, make sure your surface is protected because it's sticky, and I was still trying to get it off my fingernail earlier. But just know, like, if you're going to use that, make sure it's safe for you. If you have any allergies whatsoever, would not recommend it, and just pin your quilt together, your quilt sandwich together, okay? But for today's time and sake, I went ahead and did this. I didn't do it in here. It's a small room, so we're not going to spray it on the live, but just know that this is another great way to help hold it all together so you don't get shifting and moving, okay? So that's kind of why I like it, and it will wash away as you wash it too, so it's fine. So that's one of my other little tips if it makes it easier for you, but it's not a must-have do thing, okay? So before we start quilting our quilt together and giving it, you know, piecing it all together front to back, we do want to kind of lay out what we want our quilting to look like. And for our demonstration for this tutorial, to make it simple, I wanted to use just straight stitch, straight line. So I did a crosshatch design, which I don't know that you can really see in the camera, but basically I just sewed lines from corner to corner at an angle, and then I did it this way, okay? The only lines I skipped in this one was the ones that would cut through my focal blocks, which are with the pumpkins, okay? And when I cut out these blocks, there's a technique called fussy cutting, meaning I specifically cut the block so that my pumpkin was in the center, so it was the focal point. But I didn't want to stitch a line through my focal point, so I chose to skip the lines that would crisscross in the center here, but I still did the other ones that crisscross along the edges. Okay, does that make sense? So you don't have to do all of the lines. You can skip it if you want to make sure you don't stitch over a focal point. Some people like to stitch over the focal point. They want it to be the same all over. It's totally up to you. It's your quilt, okay? But just know that that's kind of the process thought process I went through when deciding what I wanted my technique to be when quilting it together. Okay, let's see here. Love the sunflowers. Thank you. This is going to be one of our new fall fabrics for Singer. They're coming out soon, so I will show that to you up close when we get done here. And then there was another question: is there a video for the rope basket near you? Debbie, I'm going to talk about that rope basket in a second, I promise. I love that basket. All right, so what we're going to do is use our walking foot to do this, but before we do that, we need to kind of lay out our design. And this is where these big rulers, especially with a bigger one, come in handy. But I wanted to make sure that my ruler lines up with my corners and cuts through the center of that seam. And this is where you can use a couple of things. You could use chalk. You could use a fabric pencil. There's fabric washable markers, and then there's the pens as well. I'm going to use the pen because I think it'll show up better for you guys on camera. And this is a pen that the ink disappears with heat. So when you go to press this, all the lines will go away. And you don't have to draw a big line. There we go. This is a new pen, so it took a second to get going here. You don't have to draw a really bold line, but I'm going to show it, draw it bold enough so hopefully you can see it. And then I'm going to do the same going this way and draw my lines. And this is just creating a guide for my straight stitch that I'm going to be using for quilting this together. Okay. The main thing you want to focus on is that this is crossing in the center here. Okay. There we go. Now I want to come over and get across through here. So I need to go from corner to corner. Again, this is so important why we make sure our cuts are right, our seam allowances are right. We want to make sure that it comes out nice and even. So when we draw our pattern on here, it comes out perfect. There we go. Oh, that one was kind of faint. Sometimes you have to do a little more on the darker fabrics, but there we go. Corner to corner. Now, do you have to do the crosshatch? No, you could do straight lines. You could just go in one direction and not the other. It's absolutely up to you. And that's the fun part of quilting, is really getting to decide what design you want to do. All right, so we've got our lines drawn. So now I'm going to go over here to the machine and we're going to swap this foot out for the even feed walking foot. So let me, I got a bundle of threads. There we go. So to put on this foot, you do need to take the ankle off. So not just the foot, but you do need to take the ankle. But you need the screw. So you don't have to unscrew it all the way, just most of the way. All right. So this right here, my goodness, me and these cameras. One of these days I'm going to get the hang of these. Okay. So this right here is the part that goes around the ankle. So it's going to slide on from the back to the front. And this part is going to go around the ankle, around the stem here, which is what the ankle was attached to. Okay. And the screw is going to tighten right up against it. But this little arm right here is the part that people sometimes forget to do. And then they get it all on and then they're like, something's not working right. And it's this. So this actually has to go above the bar here. So I'm actually going to lower this so you can see this bar right here that comes out to the side of the needle that you used to tighten your needle into the machine. That bar needs to come above this. So as this needle goes up and down, that bar moves up and down, and that's what makes the foot walk. Okay, so I'm going to put this on and do this in a way that hopefully you guys can see. I am lifting this up above this bar, and I'm just sliding it on and right over up against the post here. And then while I hold it there, I am going to tighten the screw as much as I can, and then I'll get my little screwdriver. Oh, sorry, didn't mean to hit the camera there. Like I said, it's like right up in here. There we go. We want to make sure it's on there nice and tight. There we go. And this arm is above that bar. So now my walking foot is going to work with the teeth on the walking foot are going to work with the teeth that are on my machine. And we're going to keep it on a straight stitch, but this time I'm going to change my straight stitch from 2.5 millimeters, which is like the default setting for a straight stitch on your sewing machine. And I'm going to set it for 3 millimeters. You can choose whatever setting you want, but typically for quilting, you want a little bit of a longer stitch because you're quilting through so much fabric. So it's nice and thick. So you want a little bit of a longer stitch, and then that stitch is a little more visible and you want your quilting to show up. So I'm going to lift my foot and put it down and drop my needle. And we're going to follow the lines that we did using our straight stitch. Nice and simple. Now, you may not hear it too well because my microphone tends to drown out and block out the background noise, but the walking foot is going to be a little louder than a regular foot. It's not horrible, but it's there. And I'm going nice and slow. And then you can always pick it up when you get going. And you just want to make sure your needle follows that line that you drew. That way you're crossing through those seams perfectly. All right, so I'm going to show you real quick. I just went through the sunflower, so you can see that it's a little bit of a longer stitch here going right through there. This time I'm going to crisscross and go this direction. So and even with the walking foot on your machine, you can still get that extra lift in the foot to get your material under there, which is extremely helpful. Now, as I'm sewing, do you see how this arm of the walking foot is going up and down with the needle because we put it above that bar? That is what helps the foot. See how it's lifted the teeth right now? But then as the needle comes back up, the teeth, this will help the teeth go down and feed it through. It really is fascinating to really watch how these specialty feet like this work. All right, so now you can see that I have my stitch going through here. Now I know you still see my lines, but like I said, this pin that I'm using will go away when I press it. It goes away with the heat, but there's also washable ones that you can gently wash away as well. So just use whatever you have on hand. Chalk is another good one for darker fabrics. Yeah, so you would just continue. You would start here and go down this one. You can go down this one. Then we would turn and go this way and this way. All right, so now you guys kind of have an idea of some of the simple techniques for quilting this together using that walking foot and then piecing it together using the 1/4 inch foot. If you have any questions about doing those things, you can also reference the tutorial, which goes into great detail. And you can also send us a message or leave a comment in the video and we can answer it. I'm going to check and see if we have any other questions. Awesome. All right, I think we're good. I did want to show out a couple of, show you all a couple of things that I have here. I think it was Debbie earlier who mentioned the basket back here. So I definitely had to decorate my space a little bit for fall to go with my fall wall hanging that we are making for the month. I also wanted to showcase our project of the month for October to give you a little sneak peek. This is a really fun project and great to get like the kids involved. But this right here is what she was talking about. This is, it's a rope basket. I made this on one of our heavy duty machines, but you could absolutely do this on like the 9960 or the 8060 that we've been using today. But it's just rope, like a clothesline rope, and it is wrapped in different shades of orange fabric to give it a little dimension. And then I made a lid the same way. Everything on here is rope except for the leaves. But all of this is just rope and a zigzag stitch. That's it. And it's so much fun. And it's got a nice lid. I'm going to be using this to put candy in for Halloween. And something else I love about this is I'll piece it on here backwards while I look at the camera. These are just little felt pieces I cut out. And because it's felt, it sticks right to the side of the basket. So you could cut out a bunch of faces and stick it to it and let your kids change it up and play around. But, you don't have to secure it. You could take it off. So after Halloween, it's just a fall pumpkin, and it's a Halloween pumpkin. So isn't it cute? We do have a tutorial for this that I made. It is on singer.com. So you can go check out that written tutorial. We do not have a video on this one. This was like a bonus project I made for the fall. So I hope you guys enjoy it. You'll probably see more of it here soon on our social media. It's just a fun project. This one does take a while. It does take a while, but it's totally worth it and a lot of fun. So, all right. At what point do you back up the stitches reverse? I can't think of how to. Okay, so when you're piecing stuff together, you don't really need a back stitch. You can choose to back stitch when you are doing your quilting. For this project, maybe you want to do, we're doing a binding on this one. So this one has a full binding. That's what's going to secure in all of those edge stitches. You know what I'm talking about, like the loose ones that are going to be right along the edge. This binding is going to wrap all of that up together and secure it, just like that. So see, there's a different back, and we did a special binding. So in the tutorial, I'll walk you through. It walks you through all the steps for the binding, and the binding, when you start and stop your binding, is where you're going to backstitch. So that's what's going to secure it all together. So yeah, I hope that it helps answer your question. If you have any other questions, just let us know, Paula. And there's, like I said, a lot more details in this tutorial. I think that is, I wanted to show you all real quick, because some of y'all mentioned the fabrics I was using. I was using some of our new fabrics from Singer that are going to be our fall fabrics. I don't have all of them, but I have a few here with me. So I thought I'd showcase some of them. I love this brown with the pumpkins. I think some of these would be perfect for making this project of the month. So these should be available on our website soon. These sunflowers are really pretty. I love the cows. I think this would be so cute on a little kitchen towel for sure. And there's this one with the floral, and all of these kind of go together. We also have these like little pre-cut bundles. This one's really cute. It's got like a poppy flower theme. And then the one that I used, and it's got little gnomes. I just realized there's little gnomes on that. Oh, that's really cute. The one that I used today was another one of these pre-cut bundles. So I just took this bundle and pieced, because they all went together. So I just pieced it all together. So it makes it really easy when picking out quilting fabrics. So they are beautiful fabrics, and they're very good quality, and they come in like pre-cuts and everything. So they're really fun. So check out our website, singer.com. I know we have some of our fabrics already there, but our new fall ones should be coming soon. I did want to mention, we talked about several different presser feet today. So like the walking even feed foot, the 1/4 inch piecing foot, the darning free motion foot. We currently have a special on Singer.com for the US. Check your country's website for details on your end. But in the US, I know that our presser feet are currently buy 3, get 15% off. So that's a great opportunity to get these feet so that you can really get going with quilting if you don't already have them. The 99.60 machine that I was using earlier is currently $199 off. So it's on sale right now, which is great. And then the other thing I was going to show you guys is the bobbin winder, which has been such a fun addition to Singer, is this bobbin winder. This is a universal bobbin winder. It will do the class 15 and class 15J bobbins. And it's great because when you're doing a big quilting project or a big project like this, you're going to go through several bobbins. So to be able to wind bobbins without having to unthread your machine is really nice. So I like, and it's great for travel. It's got a little handle. It's so cute. And you can store it all in there. It's really cute. And it does it very fast. And the other thing I wanted to mention real quick, let me move him out of the way, is I was talking about the difference between pressing and ironing. In my tutorial, I show you all how wonderful our Steamcraft Plus iron is, especially with this really fine point right here. It helps get in that seam and press those seams nice and crisp so that your quilt goes together seamlessly. See what I did there? Seamlessly. So this is one of my favorites. I didn't plug it in today, but I've used it before. I used it earlier today, and it's wonderful. So any other questions? I don't see any other questions. Again, thank you all for being patient with me today with my little hiccup here. I will go fix that now. But thank you all. I appreciate the time, and I cannot wait to see your finished wall hangings. I know they're all going to look different because you're going to pick out different fabrics, but I cannot wait to see what you guys create. And be sure to tag us, Singer Sewing Company, and be sure to use the hashtag Singer Sewing, hashtag Singer Sewing, so that we can see those photos of you all making our projects every month. And then come back in October. We are going to be working with this feathers and glitter and all that fun stuff. And I'm going to show you some really cool stuff to help ruffle the feathers or the ruffles across the bottom. So anyways, I hope you have a wonderful day, and I will see you next month. Bye, guys.